Okay guys, so welcome to DNA, the strongest evidence for intelligent design. If that's why you've tuned in, don't go away. Okay guys, so you've tuned in because you've been thinking, oh well, you know, I've heard so much about DNA or deoxyribonucleic acid, and you're quite curious as to, you know, what's going on. Why is everyone referring to it as information and a code? What is the big deal about this? Well, first of all, to get straight off, the big deal is that nothing ever in the world that we've seen has produced information except from an intelligent mind. So the problem is now we have things that actually show intelligence, and that is what we've got the question mark there for. We know that information can only come from an intelligent mind. That cannot be disputed. So we want to go into DNA and we want to understand what's going on. So let's have a look. Number one. Okay, so DNA contains digital information. So DNA stores instructions using a 4-letter chemical code. So you have A, T, C, G. You have adenine, thymine, cytosine, and guanine. Now, like computer code or written language, the sequence of the letters carries information that cells use to build proteins. So, key point, information is a fundamental feature of DNA. So, you can see the double helix obviously on this picture, and you can see obviously you have the letters corresponding. Now those letters are corresponding to what we call nucleotides, and they have base pairs, meaning you have two and they link together, but they're always complementary, meaning they always go together. So if you have A to T, you then have T to A. So it's always going to be in that way, and they then obviously give that information for coding. Now basically given this point, the point is, when you come to information, for example, if I tell you you need to make a cake, you've got lots of things you need to take, and then what you need to do, and then you've done it. Well, DNA gives you all those ingredients. So it says, right, you're going to make a protein, yes, makes a polypeptide chain, and there's a whole big process about this, which is even more mind-boggling. So this is just a simple part of the information. So it gives you clean-cut information about how to build that protein, so that protein amazingly folds and then goes off and does its own specific job. And that is the big thing. Why is it so interesting about this? We'll go on to about proteins and how actually the maths itself. So mathematics says it's impossible for a protein to form, and that has totally been accepted by many scientists. So this is a big question. We want to understand, if you have these nucleotides coding, who's the programmer? Who's the guy who wrote this information code to then be able to create and then give some information? Now, any person with a brain can turn around and literally say, okay, I see there's information in a book, and we have an alphabet, which is really complex as well, and we have information in binary code. Now this is much more complicated than binary code. So this is one of those things where you have to understand now that you're not just dealing with 0 and 1, you're dealing with A, T, C, and G, or adenine, thymine, guanine, and cytosine. So these nucleotides are used to make that code. So this is one big thing now. So big question mark. We've got information. We know information has only ever come from an intelligent mind, and that is a proven fact. So what's going on? Okay, number 2, here we go. DNA uses a coding system. The genetic code translates 3-letter DNA RNA codons into a specific amino acids. This is a rule-based mapping similar to a language or coding system. So, key point, DNA doesn't just contain chemicals, it operates using an information processing code. So, just like when you had the war, we had hidden codes and people had to take those codes to actually mean something, so does DNA. It's a whole process. So you don't just go, we've got a big helix, which is, by the way, billions, up to 6 billion nucleotides, which is not a tiny code, it's gigantic. Now, or humongous would be the best word. You're actually taking that and you're using it So this is the simple way of just saying it's got a coding system and it's able to use codons. So basically, let me just give you a brief in between before we get to what we're talking about. So DNA will be unzipped. You'll have your enzymes come in and start making what we call an RNA strand from RNA polymerase. Now, this enzyme will create, so RNA polymerase will basically create this mRNA or messenger RNA. So it's now gone through a process of literally reading, unzipping the code, which it's designed for because it has weak links. When it does that, it goes through, it then makes the mRNA, that goes outside of the nucleus in the cell. It goes to another machine called a ribosome, and it comes down, connects together with that mRNA, and then and by the way, that has its own genetic information in it. And as it then makes it then uses those codons to it reads it, and then able to then say, okay, we need that amino acid there, we need that amino acid there, and it takes the amino acids from its environment and then makes a whole polypeptide chain. So then what happens is it then disassociates, so it then basically separates, comes out, and then it releases this polypeptide chain and then goes around your body, gets either manipulated or it folds into its function and goes off and does that job, which by itself is quite interesting as well. So those codes, as you can see here, there's a whole set of them, and each one of them codes for each amino acid. And so it will then take that amino acid, put it in there, and then make that chain. So it's clearly got, now just doing that, plus that gigantic process is mind-boggling. But that's the point. It uses those free codes to give that codon to say, this is the amino acid we need. Absolutely mind-boggling. Okay, so this is number 3. So we've just quite mentioned most of this. So that part is now talking about the information processing system. So DNA is part of an information processing system, and that little bit I've just mentioned before, it's a lot bigger. So here we go. So DNA alone does nothing. Cells require RNA, ribosomes, enzymes, molecular machines, and energy systems that work together to read, copy, repair, and translate genetic information. Key point: life depends on an integrated information processing system, not DNA in isolation, not at all. So, 1, you have a copy of DNA is copied by enzymes to make RNA. 2, read and transport mRNA process and transported to the cytoplasm. Then 3, ribosomes read mRNA codons and assemble amino acids into proteins. 4, fold and function. Proteins fold into functional shapes and work with other molecular machines to carry out life's processes. Then 5, maintain and protect. Enzymes and systems repair DNA, remove errors and protect information and damage. And that might sound large, guys, and that is a massive, gigantic simplification. And this is literally totally mind-boggling. So you can see DNA information, then you've got RNA messengers, mRNA, then you've got ribosome readers, you've got enzyme workers, right? You've got molecular machines, right, which are effectors, and you've got energy systems, ATP and so on, all combining to make this massive information and take out the information to continue using the information to build the gigantic trillion cell machine you're looking at yourself. So the whole idea here is that it is unbelievably mind-boggling. Number 4, guys, tiny changes can have major effects. So DNA sequences are highly specific. Mutations, changes in DNA code, can be neutral, harmful, or beneficial, but changes to important genes or regulatory regions can disrupt development or cellular function. So key point: functional genetic information is often constrained, which raises questions about how complex biological systems arise by unguided processes. So we have here neutral, there nothing happens, there's a change. You can see here it's improved the function of the protein by a mutation, and here you've had harmful mutation, protein impaired, no function. So these small changes can happen, but we're not seeing how large changes can happen. So that's one big question as well. So it's really bizarre, but the fact is the science is hardcore there. You can see small changes, but the problem is when we try to have large changes at a slightly bigger level, what happens? Usually things cannot ever reproduce, or they're born sterile, or they just don't work. So here we go. Many genes in regulatory regions are critical. Random changes often break things rather than improve them. So if things are designed by accident, the accidents are breaking many things rather than improving them, or they're just neutral. So the whole idea is, if you're the improvements, how do you then go from an improvement even to then change something? Because even a small change will collapse it completely. Number 5, intelligent design argues information is best explained by intelligence. Here we go. Proponents of intelligent design argue that our repeated experience is that large amounts of specified functional information come from intelligent minds, not from undirected processes. DNA contains vast amounts of specified information that is complex, independent, and purpose directed. So, key point, the central intelligent design claim is that DNA's information is better explained by intelligent causation than by undirected processes. Here we go. Our experiences in normal life. Books and writing, information from minds. Software and code, information from minds. Design and engineering, information from minds. The question is DNA different? Not at all. So, DNA contains vast information, billions of letters of digital information, specified information. It specifies exact amino acids, timing, location, and function that actually fold into something, then do a job, or are taken to be manipulated to then continue on their function. Integrated systems, it functions in a complex independent information processing system, which is vast and complex itself. Purpose and function, it produces functional proteins that enable life at every level. So intelligent design, best explanation, and intelligent calls produce the specified functional information in DNA. Now, a naturalistic view, best explanation, is undirected process like mutation and natural selection over vast times can account for it. So it's the old special, the time of the gaps. So we don't understand what's happening. Let's just say 1,000,000 years. Wait a sec, even better, 1,000,000,000 years. Why is that? Well, we won't be around, or we can't prove it. So that's the problem, and that happens a lot in physics as well. So to give you one example, I was looking up on a theory of solar nebula theory, talking about how solar systems form. One Canadian book gave me a timeline of, I think it was 30 million years, and a British book gave me 10 million years. So, I don't know, out just by 20 million years. Now, I don't mean to be, I'm not trying to be facetious and not trying to be in any way, awkward. But the point is, when it comes to time, and so it's the time of the gaps. So every single time there's any gap at all, someone just says, oh, it's time. And unfortunately, it's not good enough. So the whole point now is that we can see quite clearly that there's a huge amount of information and processes with this, which we need to look into and analyze. We also need to take all those gaps, remove time, and then actually prove it. Otherwise, push it aside. So this is the idea for science. It's not easy, and I'll give you just the same type of excuse. Okay, so you think something, made DNA. Yes, I think that. Well, can you prove it? Yes, 1,000,000,000 years from now, it will show us this. It's pathetic. So I'm sorry. So time is not a good excuse. And if you're a scientist sitting there saying time is the answer, I'm afraid you have failed. Now, you need to turn around and say, we have time, and we're going to prove it, because we're going to either do something to expedite it, or you're going to actually prove it actually occurs. Because unfortunately, nothing is shown to this and shown intelligence. We've been around, with plenty of time now to be able to say, hey, look, there's something else with intelligence. There is nothing with intelligence around us in our solar system anywhere. So this is the problem. So we just need to grow up, and we need to then point this out and then continue onwards. So anyway, guys, I hope this shows you again that how DNA, or deoxyribonucleic acid, is actually a very clear pusher towards a massive indicator going towards intelligent design. I'd love to hear any questions or anything you need to say, guys. Pop them in the comments, please. Thumbs up and subscribe. Okay, guys, I'll see you on the next one.
Everything in this world is made up of matter. And those matters behave with each other in certain ways. And that, students, is chemistry.